From London, England, where the Queen lives.
Recorded live from an underground bunker and packaged into an MP3 with a pretty little picture. Helping to kickstart your day with the motivation and inspiration you need 365 days a year. This is the Learn, Develop, Live podcast. And this is your host, Chris Jaggs.
Good morning! Welcome to the weekly episode of the Learn, Develop, Live podcast. And believe it or not, my name is still Chris Jaggs. Shocking, I know. Can I give a shout out to a returning guest on the podcast? Yes, it is the one, the only, Monday, and the crowd goes wild. Yeah! Yes, poor Monday is upon us for another week of great opportunities and possibilities out there in the big wide world. What will you do with your week? On the episode today, I have a statement for you. Being happy is more important than being successful. Nice title. But wait, I thought Learn, Develop, Live was all about being successful and chasing your dreams. Have you been lying to us all this time, Chris? Well, no, actually. Success and happiness can go hand in hand. Also, they may not. Like everything in life, it's not always black and white. And as a health and safety course trainer once said to me, there's always going to be a little shade of grey. And that is no different here. Let me give you a quick example of what I mean. Now, if you took someone who is top of their game, maybe he or she has worked their way up the career ladder or wherever it is they work, and now they're top dog, the CEO of the show, you'd think and say the person is successful, right? I think I would say so myself. But the bigger question is, are they actually happy? We know there is more to life than just work, but for some people, that is all they actually have, and for those people, that maybe is enough. But for the others, they have the success. They've climbed the ladder to the top. But when they finish work, they go back to an empty house with no real desire to be there. You make a house, a flat, apartment, whatever it is you live in, into a home. It is just a shell surrounded by four walls and a roof. If the work thing isn't what you want to happily dedicate your life towards, those successful people can come home and be disconnected from the family they may have. They hardly see their kids, they miss family events, they miss little Johnny's football match. The examples are endless. The sad realisation is when that person is going to go through to their dying days, they're going to look back at their life with not many memories. Well, happy ones anyway. They might remember how well the workplace did 10 years ago, but what about the person's life themselves? This is why, in my opinion, you can be happy and successful, but life has to be lived. Now, before we dive straight into this, here is a message from our sponsor, which is actually me, but hey, it's good to talk.
You have the confidence. You have the talent. Now let's get the two working together. This is the Learn, Develop, Live podcast. The Learn, Develop, Live podcast, getting you ready for your next big adventure.
That's a really big deal.
Welcome back. Now I'd like to start with a quote from the great Jim Rohn. If you don't design your own life plan, chances are you'll fall into someone else's. And guess what they have planned for you? Not much. Following someone else's plan might seem amazingly easy and a quick route to success, but it won't really deliver the desired happiness and self-satisfaction that you can from your own plans. True story. Many people out there make the same mistake thinking that happiness and success are nearly similar and directly related to each other. However, in reality, it's not the case. Understanding the actual difference between being successful and being happy is essential for all. Success is great, but not at the cost of your happiness. Not always will success fetch you happiness, but if you are happy, then you have a better chance of being successful. One way you could look at this is, if you're meeting goals and overcoming challenges with a light and free heart, then you're doing life right. Keep going, but if you're dragging yourself along every step of the way, it's time to stop and just rethink your priorities. In this day and age when the world has become a stage for a competition, everyone is running a race not knowing exactly where to stop or what the finishing line will actually look like. Does this sound familiar to anyone? In most of the cases, happiness is related to achieving a goal or possessing a material object. Is it a flashy sports car you want? Or maybe it's the big house. If you look around at work, your fellow colleagues might look happy after getting that recent promotion, or a friend who bought a car that might look extremely happy. But if you try to dig into their lives deeply, probably you'll find they're wearing a false face of happiness to cover up things. The first person with a promotion might now be feeling overwhelmed with meetings and deadlines, not getting enough sleep at night, and suffering from high blood pressure. Mix that all together and you have a potential ticking time bomb, while the second person may have stretched their limits to maintain a status quo in society, but as the stress levels begin to raise, as they can barely afford their brand new monthly car payment. Now, how about you? You know I like to flip this over to you because, after all, the podcast is about you. It's all about helping you realise and unlock your true potential. You have it in you after all. Now ask yourself, are you happy? Or are you also running that race towards being successful rather than being happy? To make things a little simpler, let's take a look at the following points and understand the difference between being successful and being happy. Success means living a life with plans. Happiness is living a life with passion. You graduated at the age of 21 and you even bagged yourself a decent job right after university. You are efficient at work and get regular promotions in increments. You travel quite a few places as well, thanks to your workplace. They pay for your flights, pay for your stay, and in return for the business deals that you've brought them back. But sadly, you never got time to sit by the Thames when you were in London, or you missed the nightlife in Paris because you had the early morning meeting to wake up to. Your life is driven by plans. There's always another deadline or another important task that cannot wait. But think, can life wait for you? Perhaps not. Instead of running behind plans, fuel yourself with passion. Take time out for yourself during those office trips and experience the best that places have to offer. Surprisingly, your productivity will automatically increase and you'll have a fresh approach towards everything that you tackle. You'll realise that it's worth taking the time to get to know yourself and figure out what you're actually passionate about. And if you're still stressed from the meetings and deadlines, then maybe it's time to think about the job you're really doing. I mean, do you really want to be stressed every day? Probably it's not something you're meant to do and you're into it just for the sake of the money that's paid to you. An artist never paints a piece of art with the aim of selling it for money. They do it for the sake of love. Pause for a while and think. If they don't pay you, will you still be equally eager to do this job? Your answer will certainly make things easier for you. Success is working for your own betterment. Happiness is working for others. Successful people often tend to work themselves beyond their physical, mental and emotional limits. They put their health at stake, feeling that they cannot spare time towards eating right, drinking enough water, getting enough exercise, and obviously actually sleeping. The only thing they are concerned about is staying ahead of everyone else. They try to keep their knowledge to themselves with the fear that others can come to know of it. They might bag themselves better opportunities and you'll miss out. Is this the same for you? Are you scared to share your ideas with your peers, thinking they might win one over you? Remember, if you're climbing a ladder yourself without anyone's help, you'll always have the fear of falling badly and hurting yourself. Instead, if you're climbing with others, you know that people will hold on to you if you fall, and in itself, that acts as a sense of security. Success is in growing alone, but happiness is in growing with others. When you look at other successful people, it might seem they've achieved it easily, but only they know how much they've had to go through to reach those positions. If you look at happy people, they'll tell you how easy a task it is, and that you need nothing to actually drive happiness. It is already there, within and around you. You just need to find the ways to it. The only task you have to do is find out what makes you happy, and how the path of happiness can lead you towards the goals that you wish to achieve in life. Once you figure that out and you start pursuing the purpose for which you've been created, you'll actually find a kind of satisfaction and contentment that you never ever imagined was even possible. You won't have to sweat to get the opportunity you dreamed of. Instead, those opportunities will actually come knocking at your door. Start doing what you've been created for and be happy for being successful. 2 quotes to finish this up with you. Success is not the key to happiness. Happiness is the key to success. If you love what you're doing, you'll be successful. And the second one is from one of my very first ever managers back in my retail days, who said, "You work to live, not live to work." And just how true is that? So are you chasing success or are you chasing happiness? Whatever you're after, you need to be the one that makes the start. Life is always going to be what you make it, so why not start today? Why not start right this second? Now, why don't you come over to my calendar at ldlcall.com, find the perfect slot for you, book it, and then we'll talk on the phone. You know the address, ldlcall.com. My calendar is already open for you and waiting. Remember, the time is now. Start your journey to level up in your life today. Book your slot on the Learn, Develop, Live calendar, and let's speak soon.
Goodbye.
What? It's over already?
All over.
Thank you for listening to the Learn, Develop, Live podcast. I hope you feel as warm, motivated, and fuzzy inside as I do. You can connect with Chris at LearnDevelopLive.com or on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter.
I won't say goodbye. I'll just say until we meet again.
Until next time, join the motivation.